Back on the Young Turks, I'm your host, Cenk Uygur. Lively convention, as you can tell. All of a sudden, where everybody's having fun. Now we're going to talk to another blogger, Pamela Geller. She does AtlasShrugs.com, AtlasShrugs.com. It's apparently about the global jihad. Is that right, Pamela?
Yes, the state of the world.
Are you pro or anti-global jihad?
Well, I think in any war between the civilized man and the savage, you must err on the side of the civilized man.
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, one could dispute throughout history who was civilized and who was not, but today it seems pretty clear. And
I
the
guess
question isn't, of course, whether we're going to go after Al-Qaeda, who I take you're saying is the uncivilized people. The question is, how do we go after them? And so that leads to the first question, the fundamental question about Iraq. Did we spend our resources well going into a country that did not have any Al-Qaeda in it?
Well, the debate on Iraq, where do you want to begin? Because I clearly believe that the blood and treasure that was spent was essential. We can go into Saddam's WMD and how many hundreds of thousands that he killed. Just bear with me. Let me speak and I'll let you reply. How many hundreds of thousands that he killed, or training terrorists at Salman Pak. What were those planes, those fuselages doing there? He was harboring terrorists. He was paying the families of suicide bombers $25,000. Where do you begin? In a global jihad, where do you begin? Here you have...
Ours or theirs?
Ours or theirs what?
When you said, we had to attack Iraq in a global jihad, where do you begin?
In the war on the global jihad.
In the war on the global jihad.
Where do you begin?
And I thought maybe we were doing it. Okay.
And while I agree with you that it's not just a military solution, you have to stop funding terror states. You have to stop giving foreign aid to rogue regimes that are teaching hate, to kill the infidel, from the textbooks that are abhorrent. Yes, you're right. It is not one. There is not one solution, and it is not an easily solved problem. But clearly, the world is better off without Saddam Hussein. And we can make a case about Iraq, but it is just one front in the war on Islamic Jihad.
Of course, there's 100 places to go with that conversation, but let me start real quick with, you said they're training people to kill and encouraging them to kill themselves and others. Governor Palin's pastor said that we should be in a war mode, and Jesus wanted you to be ready to sacrifice yourself in the war, whichever war that he imagines, and including the Iraq war, according to that pastor. So is Governor Palin's pastor a jihadi?
Well, that's a rhetorical question. It's an intellectually dishonest question. And I would be more concerned with the 4 out of 5 mosques in the United States preaching hate than I would about some pastor. And I have to see these remarks, to be honest with you. But clearly so you're saying that her pastor is calling for a crusade? Is that what you're saying? Or her pastor is calling on us to defend ourselves and not to submit and to and fight against clearly an enemy that wants very much to destroy us?
Well, it definitely wasn't a rhetorical question because I wanted you to answer it, and you did. But let me explain what he said. He said, look, Jesus was in war mode. We should be like Jesus. And Jesus said that you should be ready to sacrifice yourself and die for Jesus. And if you take out the word Jesus and you put in the word Allah, it is almost exactly what the jihadis say. Now, just because they're on our side, does that make it right?
No, it's a fallacious argument.
Why is it? Explain.
It's a fallacious argument because I am talking about a worldwide global network.
So if it's just one pastor, it's okay. But if it's a global...
I'm not saying it's just one pastor.
Okay.
I didn't say that. You and I both know what we're talking about. I don't know what her pastor said. You're telling me what her pastor said.
Okay, that's all right. You haven't heard
about
that.
Palin's because it's not about Palin's pastor.
Uh-huh.
You're going to cherry pick an argument. I have to see it. Show me the transcript. Show me him saying it.
No, that's all right. You haven't seen it. That's okay. Well, let's go back to the core argument. If you'd seen it, we could have had more of a discussion. It's not a big deal. It broke yesterday. It's not an important thing.
But it really has nothing to do with what I'm discussing.
No, but it does, and I'll tell you why.
No, it doesn't.
No, but let me explain why.
Yeah, you can. Be my guest, but it
doesn't.
All right.
Okay. Well, see, here's the thing, Pamela. The Muslims view it as a crusade against them, and they view it, just like you do, as they're defending themselves. Okay, now you totally disagree with that. But in order to understand who we're fighting and why we're fighting them, you have to understand their perspective. Doesn't mean you have to agree with their perspective.
It's not a matter of disagreement. I'm looking at history. You and I can talk about
in history, Christians have been the most brutal massacres of all time by a factor of 100.
It's absolutely not true, and I'm talking about modern history. I'm talking about what's happening now.
Okay, so you're talking about dropping a nuclear bomb on Hiroshima. You're talking about the Christians in Germany that started the World War II.
The greatest thing we ever did was drop that bomb. How many more Americans should we have lost? How many more Americans?
So
Do
it was
do you
justified
believe-
to kill those 100,000 civilians.
absolutely.
Okay, no, there's no problem. But then when you say Muslims kill innocent civilians, you're forgetting that we killed 200,000 innocent civilians just with the two
Japan
bombs.
declared war on us.
But you're saying it's okay. I got
And
it.
you're saying
I'm not
don't
saying it's
defend
not
yourself.
okay. I'm
You're
just saying
don't
understand their perspective.
You're saying don't defend yourself.
I'm not saying that at all.
Yeah, that's exactly what you're saying.
In fact,
when
but
you go to war, what do you go to
Pamela-
war for? I mean, let me ask you the
Okay,
question.
all right, go ahead.
When you go to war, when a war is declared on you and they intend to take over your country, you tell me what is the appropriate response?
It depends on the situation, Pamela. And
More moral equivocation.
absolutely, because that's called judgment, and that's the proper judgment. You need to see what the situation is. When the Unabomber bombed us from Montana, the proper judgment wasn't, "Hey, don't do moral equivocation, bomb the living crap out of Montana." That would have been crazy. No, the proper answer is go find the person
You're
who
talking
did
about
it.
one
So when-
schmendrick, one nutcase in a cabin
talk-
without a toilet
and I'm
in the
talk-
woods, and I'm talking
okay,
about a
hold on,
country
let me
that's
finish. Let
a
me
country.
finish.
But
I know, but the
you're
country
that's not
didn't.
war.
But the
That's a
country,
lunatic.
Hold on, but the country didn't. Their country of Iraq did not attack us. So when you're talking about a couple of lunatics in Al Qaeda, now there happen to be a couple thousand of them, right? So the smart thing to do.
A couple of million. There are a couple of million
No, there
jihadis.
aren't. Okay,
yes,
hold
yes,
on,
there
hold
are.
on. We'll come back to that. The smart thing to do isn't to go into every country they're in. By the way, they were in the United States of America right before
Yes,
they did
they are.
terrorism.
Listen,
and they're in Germany, they're in England, they're in all these countries.
Islamic
the proper
Jihad against
answer
the-
is not to declare war on all those countries. The proper
They
answer,
declared war on us.
The proper answer is to find those people
Yeah.
and get them.
Right.
Now, for example, they were in Afghanistan. So when that happened, to answer your specific question, my response was, don't send 15,000 people to Afghanistan. Send 150,000 troops to Afghanistan. Poor bitches and kill them. Okay? Because they're the people that attacked us.
You see, I think that you're getting confused by names. Let me ask you
Oh,
something.
I am? Okay,
Yes.
that's interesting.
Well,
All
okay.
right.
So what? So if is it Al Qaeda in Sudan?
Well, that's the thing. Al Qaeda's kind of like a franchise.
I'm asking you a question. Just a
and
yes or no answer.
but there are
Because-
different people in Sudan.
That's right. No. I mean,
What
but
do
it-
you mean? You think the whole of Sudan is either Al Qaeda or not Al Qaeda?
No, I'm
That's
saying
the
it's an
problem. You
Islamic
view it as a-
jihad. It's an Islamic jihad in Sudan, and you know it. And it's not Al Qaeda. It's not an Islamic jihad.
No, wait a minute. In Sudan, there are so many different ethnic groups, and some of them might be aligned with Al Qaeda, and certainly others are not. To say that Sudan is an Islamic jihad is a very poor way of tackling that problem.
Simon Dang, who's an ex-slave and escaped with his life and was sold into slavery by Muslims, said it's an Islamic jihad. He's wrong too. You ever see the scar across his forehead like Frankenstein?
So he has a scar, so that means he's right about the whole geopolitical situation in
Geopolitical
Sudan and Africa.
No, all
so
politics
like
is
McCain's
local.
a POW, so he knows all foreign
politics
policy.
is local. No, he's not the only one that said it. It is an Islamic jihad against the people there. They're killing moderate Muslims. They're killing all Christians. You're telling me, you're going to look me in the eye and tell me that Sudan, Darfur, is not Islamic jihad?
No, but what you don't understand is some of the people they're killing are also Islamic. So it's not.
They're
it's
moderate Muslims.
And
I
it's
agree
a
with you.
tribal issue. And look, and it's a terrible thing. The question isn't whether it's terrible. The question is how do you handle it? So what's your answer? Do we invade Sudan? What do we do?
I believe that you could work with the African Congress. I believe that the UN has done absolutely nothing. But again, there has to be
So
a
you
global-
don't want to invade in that situation?
I don't believe that we, the United States, has to go in
So
alone.
we
cannot.
Okay, so let me ask you a quick question about that. We shouldn't go into Sudan
Alone.
to stop ethnic violence, but we went basically alone into Iraq when Saddam Hussein had done that ethnic violence decades
First of all, it
ago.
was a coalition of the willing, A. B.
Come on,
There was a
Pamela.
coalition of the willing. He invaded Kuwait. We should have taken him out then, but we were good and we were
No.
kind. We were good and we were kind and we made a
weren't
deal.
kind, we
were
were
good and we were
smart.
kind. No, we were smart. We weren't smart. And we made a deal with the UN and there was a UN resolution and he flouted every sanction. He was shooting at our planes during the flyovers. He did not, in one respect, adhere to the resolution.
See, for example, North Korea is a dictatorial government, one of the worst in the world.
The worst.
Terrible human
Do you
atrocities.
think Bush should take him off the terror list? I'm
Okay.
just curious.
And so the question is, how do we handle that guy? And the Iraqi model would be: we go invade North Korea, cause an enormous mess, have nearly 1 million people die, and say mission accomplished.
Could you imagine
Okay.
freeing 3 million people from that gulag?
Right. Okay.
That'd be fabulous.
Right. Except that they might cause a catastrophic war, killing hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of South Koreans and North Koreans. Or we could do what the Clinton and the Bush government did, which is strike a peace deal with them. You know why, Pamela? We're right. They're wrong. Our system's going to win. Their system's going to lose. Time is on our side.
Yeah,
we don't
but-
have to go in guns blazing
No-
in every situation.
Guns blazing.
So what I'm-
Madeleine
North
Albright
Korea
was drinking. Madeleine Albright was having cocktails with
So
that
was
incredibly,
Bush. So what?
incredibly silly plan that basically we gave them a bunch of carrots. And what did they do? What's your name?
Jank. That's okay.
Jank. Jank. What did they do?
The
They
North-
built nuclear weapons.
No. They
And
didn't
what did they
build.
do? Yes, and
They
what
did
did
not build nuclear
Sure, they
weapons
sold them to
during the
Iran.
Clinton administration.
Yes, they
built
did.
it during the Bush
They were
administration.
totally nuclear.
After
Oh,
we
come on.
stopped cooperating
That's
with them.
absolutely untrue.
All right, let me give you another
That's
example.
absolutely untrue.
Libya.
You can't make
That
up
is-
facts.
that's-
If you want to
wait a
debate
minute,
me, you
that's
got
totally
to
true.
be you got to be honest. And I'll tell you
They
what did
built
they
6
what did they
nuclear
do
weapons
today?
during the Bush
What did they do
administration,
today?
none during the Clinton
They
administration.
started their centrifuges again today with all the carrots and all the nonsense and all the talk.
So what do you want to do? Do you want to invade North Korea as well, Pamela?
They should have been cut off at the knees.
And what does that mean?
It means total sanctions.
We already have total
No,
sanctions on
we
North
did not.
Korea.
No,
North
that's
Korea literally can't feed its people.
Oh, they can't feed its people because it's total dictatorship. Total
I agree with
communist-
you, but what is
that's not
your
our fault.
further sanctions going to provide?
There are no further sanctions.
Pamela, we're
They've
running
only
out of
been-
time. I gotta
They've
ask you
only
one
been giving
last
them
thing.
carrots. They've only been giving them
Carol,
carrots.
one
It was
last-
the same,
I'm sorry, Pamela,
It was
one
the
more-
same thing with Iran.
One last thing.
No sanctions on Iran either. The Perm 5, the EU, the
Libya. We struck a deal with them. They're no longer working against us. Was that also a bad deal? Here I am defending the Bush administration. I defended George H.W. Bush early in the Persian Gulf War. So was Bush wrong to strike a deal with Libya, or should we have invaded them as well?
No, of course you. Listen, it is the last resort. You do it at last, never at once.
Do you really think that Iraq was the last resort for the Bush administration?
Yes.
Do you honestly believe
Yeah,
that?
I do.
That's amazing. Okay.
I do.
But hey, look, we have a lot of disagreements in this conference, and I appreciate you
It
coming
was
out.
lovely coming on
All right.
Jank. Next time.
All right. And everybody remember, Pamela's website is
AtlasShrugs.com if you
Atlas-
want the truth, baby.
AtlasShrugs.com.